Shadows of the past, my unbreakable secret. They say some moments haunt you forever, clinging like silent shadows, always present. It's been 4 years since that day. 4 years since everything changed. It was supposed to be simple. A beach outing with my son John. My husband Brody couldn't come. He never could. Work always came first. And I was used to it, used to the loneliness. But that day wasn't like the others. And what happened that afternoon has never left me. We spread out the beach towels. The sun was strong, maybe too strong. I lay down, finally free from the noise of the world. I asked John to help me rub sunscreen on my back. I didn't hesitate. He's my son, my boy. Why would I? At first, it was nothing, just his hands on my skin. But then I was aware of his hands sliding lower and lower, and I didn't stop him. Why? You think you know yourself. You think you know your family. But there's always a moment, a single moment, that can make everything collapse. For me, it happened that day on the beach, and I've never been the same since. Brody and I had been married for over 13 years. To anyone who knew us, we were the perfect couple. Nice house, good kids, stable life. But you only see the cracks when you're inside. You only sense the emptiness when you live it. 4 years, Brody's work was his entire universe. Late nights, weekends, holidays. I told myself he was doing it for us, that the overtime and dedication were building the life he wanted for our family. But after all that time, the story started to crumble. What good is a house if no one is ever in it? I became invisible to him. When he came home, he barely looked at me. He stopped asking how I was, what I wanted, what I needed. Our conversations shrank to small, practical sentences. Bills, groceries, the kids. He loved John and his little sister. But even with them, his presence seemed like a shadow. He was there, but not really. I often sat across from him at the table, wondering if he still saw me at all. That morning, I remember standing in the kitchen while Brody rushed toward the door. He grabbed his briefcase, kissed the top of my head, and looked at me just once. "Sorry, Charlotte, I can't come today. Something came up at work." I didn't even protest. I just nodded like always, throat tight. I told myself it was fine. John and I could go alone. John was 17 then, tall, lean, with the same brown eyes as his father, but a softer face. He didn't say much, even when I told him it would be just the two of us. I think he was used to his dad letting us down, too. He shrugged, grabbed the bags, and followed me to the car. I watched him in the passenger seat on the way there, earbuds in, staring out the window like every teenager. I couldn't help but smile. He was growing up so fast, and sometimes I wondered if one day I'd blink and lose him, too. The drive to the beach seemed endless. My thoughts drifted, as they always did, to Brody. I remembered all the things we used to do together. Movie nights, long aimless drives, just for the pleasure of being together. I remembered the way he used to look at me, how his eyes lit up when he saw me. I hadn't experienced anything like that in years. I hadn't experienced anything at all. I was so tired of being invisible. We finally arrived. John helped carry the bags to a quiet spot near the water. I spread out the towels while he set up the umbrella. I don't know why, but suddenly I needed to talk to him. Maybe because we were alone, or maybe I just needed to talk to someone. "It's nice to get out, isn't it?" I said, trying to sound cheerful. He just nodded, pushing his hair back with one hand. "Yeah, Mom, I lay down on the towel. The sun's heat sank into my skin. I stayed still for a moment, simply letting myself go, as if I could shed the weight of the last few years, even for an hour. Then I remembered the sunscreen. I turned to John. "Can you help me put some on my back? I can't reach." He looked at me for a second, almost hesitant, before taking the bottle from my hand. I lay on my stomach on the towel and waited. The first contact was gentle, careful. His hands were uncertain, as if he didn't want to hurt me. I smiled to myself. It reminded me of when he was little, when he held my hand to cross the street. His hands were so small back then. "You can press a little harder," I said, voice muffled against the towel. "It's okay." He listened. His hands grew firmer as he spread the lotion over my shoulders and down my back. I closed my eyes and tried to focus on the rhythm. For a moment, I let myself enjoy it. It had been so long since anyone had touched me, and that thought hit me harder than I wanted to admit. But then I was aware of his hands sliding lower slowly, carefully, along the curve of my lower back. I went still. I opened my mouth to say something, but no sound came out. My thoughts raced, but I stayed silent. I told myself it was nothing. He was just helping. I was imagining things, but I wasn't. His hands paused for a moment near the edge where my swimsuit bottom began. I was aware of his hesitation. I was aware of mine, and instead of stopping him, I said, "It's okay. You can continue there too." The words hung in the air like poison. The moment they left my mouth, I knew I could never take them back. John said nothing. He didn't stop either. I squeezed my eyes shut and was aware of his hands on me, lower than they should have been. My heart pounded so hard I thought he could hear it. I wanted to move, to sit up, to tell him to stop, but I didn't. I couldn't. I let him. Even now, I don't know why. Maybe it was the loneliness. Maybe I was too desperate to be wanted, even if it was wrong. Or maybe I just didn't care anymore. That day on the beach, something inside me broke, and nothing has ever been the same. If you've made it this far into the story, thank you for staying with me. I know this isn't easy to hear, and I appreciate that you're listening. If you find this story interesting or think someone might recognize themselves in what I'm sharing, take a moment to like and subscribe. It really helps me keep sharing stories like this and lets me know I'm not alone. Okay, back to the story. After that day at the beach, something changed. I couldn't ignore it. What I was aware of, what I saw, the way John looked at me afterward. It wasn't just a fleeting glance or a passing moment. It was constant. Every time our eyes met, there was something different in him, something I didn't want to name, but couldn't ignore. I tried to bury it. When we got home that evening, I did everything I could to act normal. I made dinner, asked John about school, folded laundry late into the night. My hands kept shaking. I replayed everything over and over. His hands, the way he continued, the tension I was aware of in my own body. I hated myself for it, and I hated him for making me think of my own son that way. Brody noticed nothing. He came home late as usual, tired, face heavy. He kissed my cheek out of habit, just a shadow of what it used to be. "Long day?" I asked, hoping for a little conversation. He grunted and nodded, already halfway to the living room. It was always like that. His presence seemed almost superfluous. I felt invisible again. That night, lying in bed next to Brody, staring at the ceiling while he snored softly beside me. The house was quiet, but my mind was not. I couldn't stop thinking about John. His hands, his gaze. I knew it was wrong. I knew I had to stop whatever this was before it went any further. But there was another part of me, something dark, something lonely, that wanted to hold on, that craved attention, that craved to be seen. The days passed, and John said nothing, but his silence spoke louder than words. He didn't avoid me. Not really. Instead, he stayed closer. I caught him watching me when I cooked, when I cleaned, when I sat alone on the couch at night, and I let him. I didn't stop him. I didn't stop myself. Then came the following weekend. It was warm again, and the house felt stifling. Brody was working another night shift, leaving me alone with John once more. I asked him if he wanted to go back to the beach, just the two of us. I don't know why I did it. Maybe I thought getting out would clear my head. Maybe I wanted to test myself, see if I could push it all away. The car ride was silent this time. John didn't put in his earbuds. He just sat there, staring out the window, me bouncing nervously. I wanted to say something, anything to break the silence. But every time I opened my mouth, the words stuck in my throat. When we arrived, the beach was almost empty. I remember the blue of the water, the softness of the sand on my skin. I spread out the towels like before, and John helped set everything up. This time, I didn't ask him to rub sunscreen on my back. I couldn't, so I lay there, eyes closed, pretending everything was fine. But even with my eyes closed, I saw him. I saw him watching me. The breaking point came later that afternoon. We decided to rinse off in the beach showers before heading home just to get rid of the sand. But something happened there, something I still can't fully explain. John went in first, letting the water run down his back. I stood a little apart, watching him for a moment before stepping beside him. I don't know what came over me, but I took off my swimsuit and stood next to him. The cool water hit my skin. John looked at me surprised. I don't know if it was shock, confusion, or something else, but he didn't say a word. I looked at him, really looked, and said, "You should take your shorts off too. You need to rinse properly." I don't know why I said it. Maybe I wanted to prove I could control myself, that I could stop this. Or maybe I was testing him, testing myself. He hesitated for a second, then did what I asked, slipping off his shorts, and there we were, alone, water streaming over us, nothing between us, but what we both were aware of. I turned my back to him and said softly, "Help me with my back." And he did. His hands were careful again, like before, but the intention was undeniable. I was aware of it in him. I was aware of it in me when he placed his hand on my waist. I froze. The air seemed to thicken around us. The sound of the water covered everything else. I could have run. I could have stopped him. But instead, I leaned closer. I took his hands and guided them. And when I did, he didn't move away. What happened next? I can't explain it. I won't. It was a moment, a blur of need, loneliness, and other things I don't want to name. It wasn't gentle or slow. It was desperate, passionate, and deeply wrong. But I couldn't stop it. I didn't want to. And when it was over, we stood there, water still running over us, the world fading, but not the truth. He held me afterward, like no one had in years, and I let him. Afterward, we didn't speak. We dried off, packed our things, and walked back to the car in silence. I glanced at John, out of the corner of my eye, face flushed, movement stiff. I knew I had ruined everything. I knew we had crossed a line we could never uncross. And yet, for the first time in years, I was aware of being alive. The drive home was quiet at first. The car seemed too small, too heavy, as if the air itself was pressing down on us. I gripped the steering wheel, trying to focus on the road, but my thoughts were spinning. I could still see John, his hands, his body, the weight of what we had just done. I stole glances at him in the passenger seat. He sat rigid, staring out the window, face red, jaw tight, and then suddenly he spoke. "Mom," he whispered, voice low, almost uncertain. I didn't look at him. I couldn't, but I heard him. "What happened?" My heart skipped. For a moment, I thought about pretending, minimizing it, changing the subject. But there was no point in pretending anymore, not after what we had done. I took a shaky breath and answered, "I don't know." It was the truth, or as close to it as I could get. I didn't know what had happened. I didn't know why. All I knew was that everything had changed. We sat in silence after that, both of us lost in the dark. I thought that would be the end, that we would go home, try to forget, pretend nothing happened. But John had other ideas. Before I could even open the car door, he leaned over and put his mouth on mine. He hesitated, as if afraid I would move away, but I didn't. I let him, and then I lost control. I don't know if it was the loneliness, the years of neglect, or the way John looked at me like no one had in so long, but I let him right there in front of our house. John drew me to him, hands sliding over me as if they were made for it. I was aware of being alive. I was aware of being desired. I was aware of being seen for the first time in years. I didn't care about anything else. I don't know how long we stayed like that, entangled together. But eventually, we went inside. I don't remember much of the walk to the door, just his hand and mine. The silence between us vibrating like electricity. We didn't speak. We didn't need to. Once inside, everything intensified, as if we had been holding back too long, and the dam had finally broken. The days that followed are a blur. John stayed close, always finding reasons to brush against me or look at me when no one else was watching. I told myself to stop, to distance myself, to end it. But every time I looked at him, I saw the same loneliness I was aware of. It was as if we were mirrors, reflecting the same need, the same emptiness. And I couldn't say no. I didn't want to. At night, lying in bed next to Brody, staring at the ceiling while he snored, I thought,